Okay, a few final notes and tips on the Bumblebee. Uh, Obviously, when you design a kit, you go through and you build it. You build a couple of versions. I've got my buddy Chuck that flies one. And we made some changes as we went along just to make the thing stronger, which might not necessarily be in the build video, although I did supplement one of the fuselages. But anyway, on the finishing here, just a few things. One is, on the kit, on the fins, what I've done is, because this can be set up for either a single fin version, which is what this one is, or this is one of the earlier prototypes with the twin fins right there. So in order to accommodate both the fins, either way you want to build it, I have a feeling most people will probably do the dual fins, because one thing, the advantage of the dual fins, it does give you the space here to work. On the single fin, you do have to account for your speed controller, and you need to use I highly recommend these quad speed controllers, and I have a video on how to set it up, turn the active braking on. You'll need to use an old flight controller so you can get the VL Healy to do that. But the fin, when you mount the fins, what I've done is I've included in the kit has two fins, but both of them are full-size fins. In other words, they fit the single. For the dual fins, there's a template in there that you can cut out. It'll come on a sheet of paper like this, obviously. And what it is, it basically just lines up to the rear of the fin right here. And if you will cut it out, okay, just using a sharp knife on coroplast, it's not hard. You can cut it out, put the notch in there, and then these will be designed to fit on either side of the fuselage, and they line up right at the rear of the firewall. Now, on all the fins, it's going to be important that you glue the fin into the wing. Don't just glue it on the fuselage, or it'll twist and break off really easily. I've added some notes in the instructions, which is not in the building videos. An easy way to do the center fin is one of the last things you do is put the fuselage on. But plan ahead and cut a notch into the wing for the fin to fit in. And it's going to go down in, I don't know, maybe a quarter of an inch or so. It'll go down to where this part here is below the fuselage area right there, but it needs to go into the wing. And then cut the slot on top of the fuselage before you glue it on. That way it's kind of lined up. If you do it afterwards, which is what I did on this one, and sink into the wing, it's not that hard. Just cut out your slot for the fin on the fuselage, and then take a Dremel tool and using a depth guide like this, and I inserted an 1/8 inch drill bit to get the depth, and that's about the depth that I went on it right there. Then just once you cut the slot in the fuselage, just use that as a guide and use an 1/8 inch bit. This is your depth guide, and just route your slot so it fits in there securely. Obviously, if you don't have one of these, then you want to cut that slot beforehand, because you want that slot to be pretty clean, because you want that fin to set down inside there. Same holds true on the side fins. They're designed to go right here and glue up to the fuselage, but you'll want to cut a slot, a little slot there, so this actually fits down in there about 1 3/8 of an inch into the wing, and glues into the wing and up next to the fuselage. That'll add strength for the fins, and that's how the fins are mounted. On the nose up here, I've got some STL files on Thingiverse if you want to add a 3D printed cover. I like this because this one is set up to mount the Hawkeye HD cam, which you can get these off of Banggood. They had them in the U.S. warehouse in Banggood. You can get them off of Amazon.com. They're about 20-25 bucks. They actually work pretty good. I was kind of surprised. But it's just designed to go in between those two rails right there. And then it's got two holes on each side that you pull a zippy tie through, and it kind of zippy ties in place and keeps it in place. The rear of this hatch is held on by 4 little magnets, here, 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 and here. And that provides a real strong secure option for the rear hatch. Of course, the front's glued in. Also, on the single fin, you have to kind of plan for this installation here, because you're going to need these wires to clear this fin. I could have come over a little bit more, probably should have. And you want it to go in right about here, because you got to have these magnets on each side. You have to be careful cutting this, and then just you want to route this part a little deeper right in there, so when the battery gets hooked up, that fits down inside there, so the battery cover can close completely. The other thing we've done is we've added 2 spars, one on each side on the bottom, 11-inch spars. They go about 3/4 inch, an inch back from the leading edge, And they're cut in about 3/8 of an inch deep, a little bit deeper than the regular main spars, kind of get it close to the center. This is just add support for the front of the wing. These spars also notch up in about 1/4 to 3/8 into the center section. You want to do that, okay, front. Because another area we found that was a little weak point when you hit trees a couple of times, they just kind of jump out of nowhere, is it will tend to crack right in there, and this will add strength and support right there. The other thing on the wing is take some, I used the Scotch Extreme tape. If you don't have some, you should get some. It's not the cheapest stuff, but it works really good. It's basically strapping tape, but it's a strapping tape that goes on real easy. Cut about I don't know, I think what I did is I took the strip and cut it in half. That's what I did, and then just put you a leading edge, a piece of leading edge, the strapping tape, onto the foam. This is before you laminate it in the front there, and that'll add some durability to that leading edge, which is going to be needed. Now, a couple notes on laminating. The film in this is either 1.5 or 1.7 mil. It's a thin film, and it works good because it doesn't have a whole lot of weight. This is standard laminating film, so the temperature that it goes on in is, according to the manufacturers, between 260 and 290 degrees is where the film goes on. Now, the melting point of EPP is around 330 degrees, so you need to keep that in mind. What I have found, things are falling everywhere, is I just get one of these little infrared thermometers. I get this at Harbor Freight. You can pick these up fairly cheaply. I forget what I paid for it, but it was 20, 25 bucks. If you're going to do a lot of building on wings, it really is a good investment. Because on my iron, and I use an old Hobbyco iron that I've had for, gosh, I don't know, it goes back to my RC days for covering with monocoat. Still works good, but I use this to adjust the temperature, and I tell you, I find that I'm adjusting it a couple of times during laminating, especially on startup, and just throw rheostat right there. That knob is probably old and probably not the most accurate thing, but it helps to keep this around 260 degrees. Anything lower than that, and you're not going to get good adhesion. You don't want to go up really high because you don't want to melt the phone or warp the phone. And it's easy to put these things back in the wing saddle as you're laminating the wings, but just be aware of that. I like to set mine at 260 degrees. It seems to work just fine. Maybe laminating, obviously the wing and the fuselage. Now on the fuselage, we've added spars. Of course, there's the original 5.5 spars that start right in front of the hatch here, and they just run forward. You'll see those on the plan. We've added a 5-inch spar in the center, and it just runs from basically here to about here. And then I've added 4 spars, 2 on each side, that go right here where the wing saddle is. Okay, and all that is it's just all designed to add support to this fuselage because we went back to the longer nose. Then using the fiberglass drywall tape, which you can usually get at Lowe's or Home Depot, we cover the bottom, and this is in the video, using CA to put it down, and then I put a piece on each side, and that really stiffens up this nose because this thing is designed to fly in and out of small things, and unless you're a professional pilot, which I'm not, you tend to hit a lot of things, so that adds a little strength there. On the setup, the original ones we were using, I was using a 1407 motor on. I had 4 motors that were on my little 3-inch quad that I was using. And I burned up 3 out of the 4 of them because I was trying to swing a 4-inch prop, and I tried a couple of variations of a two-bladed 4-inch, cutting it down and blah blah blah. Anyway, it was enough power, but I just kept burning up motors. And I said, well, that ain't gonna work. And then I noticed this Emax motor that just came out. I don't have my prop type. It's a new Emax 1606, which turns out to be, in my opinion, about the perfect motor for this thing here. This is a APC 4.1 by 4.1 prop, pusher prop, EP. This is this new Emax 1606. This is a 3300 kV, I think it is, something like that. Race Day Quads has got them. Get FPV's got them. Probably other places have got them. My buddy Chuck put a 2204 quad motor on the back of it, and he loves it. Flies just fine. Both of them are using an 850 milliamp battery pack, which this one's kind of secured in, so I ain't going to take it out. I've got tattoo packs that I get from Aloft Hobbies or Nanotechs, the Hobby King ones. The servos, these are some K&S servos that I get from Aloft that I really like. They're like $9-10 bucks a piece. They're like 5.6 gram servos. They're Metal Gear digital servos. They make a little noise, but they work really good. On the radio setup, on the bottom hatch, obviously when you use a quad ESC, you're going to have a voltage regulator run your receiver. And you can get these voltage regulators. I got these off of Amazon, but you want to make sure to try to get a 5 volt and about a 3 amp. There's some smaller ones, but the 3 amp, that way you don't have to worry about voltage spikes, which probably 2 amp, I'm guessing, is plenty of it. We can get these, you can get like a 5-pack for $5 or $6, and sometimes it's kind of necessary because some of these come faulty out of the package. That's a D4R receiver. I mounted this little VTX on the bottom because I happen to have it laying around. This is an AKK K5 or something. I don't know. It's a little micro thing, goes up like 250 milliwatts. Actually works pretty good. My preference though, and I mounted this on the bottom. This thing gets blazingly hot though when you turn it up. My preference though on VTXs is just a regular full-size VTX, and I like the Race Day quads, the Mach 2s, and of course the new one is the Mach 3. And this one has the antenna wire direct soldered on there. It's not necessary. You can extend it out. I just like the full-size one because you can get more power. This goes to 500 or 600 milliwatt, and I think the new one goes up to 1,000 or something like that. So you're flying around, you can crank it up and get plenty of range out of it. This one's got a 35 amp speed controller, which is not really necessary. 25 amp is more than enough. And also highly recommend getting the BL Healy 32 because the resolution is really so good. And other than that, on the setup, on the battery strap, I've got a simple, I just use these little straps I get from, stuff everywhere here, Home Depot. I have a bag. They come in like a roll, little small ones. You know, I just cut a slot there. Notice I mentioned on the plans and video, make sure your spars here are going to be just inside this. So this uses the spars for support. And I just cut some slots up through there, run the battery strap, and that holds it in just fine. On this one, with the service mounted where I've got it marked on the plans, 25 amp speed controller. Use either one of the VTXs mounted right there, it doesn't matter. Everything's set up like it is. The balance comes right out where it should be with no additional weight. The balance point is like 1.5 back from the leading edge. Kind of hard to really measure that from here. The easiest way is to measure it from the firewall, which is the end of the firewall, straight forward 4 7/8. And that's a good starting point. It flies just fine at that location there. And you can adjust the CG to your taste. On the control setups, it doesn't take much throw on these. Something to keep in mind. And I found on these, and this is a semi-symmetrical airfoil, I found that a little bit of reflex helps, at least on the initial flights, and then you can adjust it from there. But on the control throws, there's, it doesn't take much. I've got just a little bit of reflex on this one, but I'm using on the up, as you can probably see, that's about, I think I measured about 9 millimeters up and down. Can't get my control throw gauge on these because it flexes too much. I'm going to build another one real soon, which won't hook on the aileron, so you can do it. But you can see about how much throw I've got on the elevator. It's about 8 or 9 millimeters up. On the aileron, it's about the same, only I throw in some differential. You can see it has less down than it's got up. But yeah, you don't want to overdo that because this thing, it gets up and scoots pretty quick, so it gets pretty sensitive on those controls. And let's see, the camera, that's a Foxeer micro camera. Oh, the other thing I mentioned, I didn't point out, is when you're building this thing, and I kind of alluded to it, I think, on one of the videos. Get this thing out of here.
Telemetry lost.
Yeah, telemetry lost. I know all about that. To make your life much easier, make sure when you're building in this thing, is you want to cut, I mentioned on the building the sides, cutting that slot down there. You want to make sure you got a slot cut and then cut through the bottom of the wing so you can run your VTX wires. Make sure you got a slot all the way through there. If you don't, you're going to go through a pain having to dig that channel out. So do that ahead of time. And in fact, I find it much easier just to lay out and pretty much install all the electronics in the wing before the fuselage is ever glued on. That's one of the last things to do, and then the very last thing is to glue the fins on. Outside of that, just take it out and go fly the thing and see how it flies. I find the single fin, to me, seems to fly a little bit better. Could just be that one's got a shorter nose on it. We did extend the nose back on this a little bit because I think it flies better with a bigger nose, and we increase the size of the nose a little bit. Oh, one other side note. When you're cutting out for the camera cutout, try not to cut out too much on the top there. You want to leave as much material underneath there where you're going to glue on that as possible. You get that too thin, and that'll start flexing, and that'll pop off. So right on there when you cut that cam cut out, just make sure try to leave as much as possible. And that's about it. So get it built, go out and fly it, and post some pictures on Facebook so we can see it and enjoy.